Debenhams collapsed 2 years ago, and here are the top 2 reasons why we think it did. Jeremy?
I think the first main reason is the culture didn't evolve over time. Debenhams has been going for over 200 years, developed from a very small place to a very big place. It got to the point where it didn't evolve quickly enough to keep pace with its customers. What about you, Dwayne?
Well, yeah, I would agree. I mean, I've worked the past 10 years before coming into the corporate world in retail as a retail manager. And I saw the collapse of Debenhams coming. It wasn't keeping up with the modern times, not investing in the customer experience. And it's one of the reasons why it led to its collapse.
But I think a lot of people don't realise that they saw the press about the various things it was going through. They may not necessarily have understood why. In that, I say, we started with 200 years of really good trading, starting from one shop to a number of shops to owning their own shops. And then over time, we get to a point where it's not making any money. And we then get to a point where we have loads of assets that aren't really returning the amount of money that they need to for their shareholders. And at that point, someone says, no, let's sell the assets, get the asset base down to the right level so the return to the shareholders can be maintained. And it's going to work then, isn't it?
Well, it didn't. It
no,
didn't work.
Certainly not. But I mean, what happened then was obviously the rents, because they sold the assets, they still had the shops. They didn't get rid of any shops. They just rented them. So the costs go up. And you're probably starting at that point to lose your flexibility unless you've got a very, very clear direction about where you're going. So then from that point, you'll then, if you haven't got that clear direction, and I think as you agree, I think you'd agree with me, they didn't really have that direction. All they wanted to do was sell to their customers, but were losing a confirmation of who those customers were. And they were losing an ability to flex and to adapt.
100%. I mean, we all remember the Blue Cross sales, 70% off, and go into a shop and seeing something that you bought at 100% down to 70. It's not really, doesn't really sit well. The customers that were loyal became unloyal and started to shop elsewhere.
But as we talked about slightly earlier, it wasn't a question of people going elsewhere, but also how they shopped. I mean, let's look at the period. I mean, the internet starts in about 1990, 1985.
Yes.
So by mid-90s, how much is being bought in shops anymore? How many people are going to shops to buy the things that Debenhams are selling? Probably starting to drop quite significantly.
Yeah, and the shop itself didn't really keep up with the modern times. I mean, I remember going into Debenhams and seeing lifts, escalators not working. The merchandise were looking a bit shoddy. The mannequins, and compared to other retailers like Next and John Lewis that were up and coming, already you were pretty much walking into a museum, but just obviously surrounded by other concessions that you would see on the high street, like Topshop and Burton's.
So you do the first capital reorganisation, and you've taken away a lot of your flexibility. You don't have this big overarching brand new plan. I get Arcadia Group come in and start doing a Topshop. Is it Topshop?
Topshop and Burton's, and I think there was is it Dorothy Perkins as well?
I never went to Dorothy Perkins.
No, neither did I. Neither did I.
But because you have lots of flexibility, and then you've still got these rents, then you have a situation where you've got the creditors get approached and say, look, it's not working through the company creditors company voluntary arrangement. But then again, you still need a plan after that that's fundamentally going to change. And I don't see they ever had that. And I'm not saying I criticise them. I mean, because Debenhams was a shop. It was always a shop. It was a big empty room that it put things in that people bought. It's difficult to go and get the directors on board at the fact that what they actually need to do is get rid of the shop. Just I can't. I could see that's a very big jump.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, what? I guess the question is, how come they didn't have the money to invest in keeping up? If we go back to when they first, I guess, I think it's when they were acquired. They were acquired by a private equity firm, and what was the strategy back then? Because it's sort of like in layman's terms, it's like you're living in a home, and you decide, due to not having enough cash flow, to sell that home to release cash, but you're just selling it to a landlord that you're now going to rent, and that rent is increasing because you're not planning for the rent increasing.
but you see that is what I see was the problem, in that had the original board of Debenhams dealt with it, they should have done something very similar and kept the money in the business to do the investment, possibly to downsize and work out what worked better and start flexing as they'd spent the last 200 years doing. But the board spent a number of years not doing that, which is why someone comes along and says, "Do you know what? We'll buy out the shares, we'll take the remedial action, we'll give the money back to the shareholders, that effectively is now us because we bought people out, and then we'll hand the company back to a new board to take the business forward."
Yeah.
But you say without a plan. But then again, I suppose I find it difficult to criticise too many people, because who knew in the 90s that by 2025 how much of our shopping is done through Amazon?
Yeah.
I mean, it's
big change. If you had said that to someone, they couldn't imagine it.
No.
And now we're here, and it is literally the norm. Mike Ashley.
Yes.
I know he stepped up to I guess take over at some point, and I mean, I think overnight his shareholding pretty much got evaporated. I mean, it's quite, when you look back at, say, 2020 hindsight, it's a wonderful lens to look through everything. Might well be that Mike Ashley was actually right in that what you had to do was what Mike Ashley was going to do to Debenhams. But again, against the background of everyone thinks Debenhams is a shop and it's got this great history in it, and to have Mike Ashley, who was considered to be a pile 'em high, sell 'em cheap kind of guy, it might have been, that's not us, we're Debenhams. Yeah, because I remember, obviously at the time I wasn't working in this industry, but I remember obviously him taking over, it being a positive thing to further down the line when the company went into an agreement, and he was there obviously like in court trying to, I guess, position himself with a particular landlord to sort of
he was trying to get the landlords to vote against it.
Yeah.
But I mean, even that, I mean, one of the problems of working in insolvency, it's a live subject, and that whatever we can do today, we might not be able to do tomorrow, and certainly we won't be able to do in a few years' time. So I mean, the whole point of that challenge was that the landlords were saying, well, we're landlords, you can't amend our position going forward. Now you can sit here and say, well, they would say that, wouldn't they? Because that's what the job of a landlord is. But if you've got a property that has got thousands and thousands of square feet, and you're paying £15 a square foot for years, that's a large sum of money, and it may not be worth that anymore. The fact the landlord's got that amount of, or you've got that, Debenhams had that amount of space, was wholly impractical, and whoever had it was never going to pay for it. Now, as I understand the court case, they were told going forward you couldn't amend that. You could amend the rents, I think, couldn't you?
Yeah.
But there's a logic to that, because what's the point of if you can't make enough money, and the profit per square foot of a Debenhams of a store that big drop from £100 to £50, then there's not the money to pay the rent. And the whole point of a company voluntary arrangement is to make it succeed. I mean, more straightforward, really. So, I think Mike actually might have been right, but the whole point is not necessarily being right. I meet loads of people that are absolutely convinced they're right, but they can't convince anybody else. So it doesn't. You could be the rightest, most correct person in the world, but if no one else agrees with you, then you're wasting your time.
Yeah.
But I would say with no plan before, no plan at the first stage, no nil plan at the CVA. I think we're getting to the point where it had really nowhere else to go other than a complete reorganisation with the shutting of all the shops, which we're in Bromley. We've still got 4 stories of ex-Debenhams across the road from here, and going at that point to where Debenhams probably should have been in the year 2000s, 2010s, pretty much online, selling to its customers that it now still has some relationship with.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, I probably would say that there was 2 choices. One was invest like some of their competitors had been, which they couldn't. They didn't have the cash flow to. I mean, John Lewis, they shrunk at the right time. They reinvested in pay-per-click. They reinvested in the shop's look and aesthetics. Same with Primark as well. Primark, even though they came into the scene slightly later, they focused on an experience in store. So you've got 2 large brands, and as well as Next. Next had a really strong online presence and store presence as well. But once again, they had foresight. They made the changes because they could see a change in the future was coming. It's just Debenhams, like you said, they were shop owners, shopkeepers, and that was always their mindset. So
with the other point, with when you think about it, time is everybody's enemy, and the only thing that is certain in life is that things change, and any business owner will tell you that the way they do business now is very different to the way they did business 10 years ago. And please don't ask me how we're going to do business in 10 years' time, because I don't know. All I know is we're going to have to change. For instance, we're doing this now. We never would have done this 10 years ago.
No.
So what lessons do you think we can learn from this?
I think one of the main lessons is acting early. I feel that maybe if we could go into a time machine and speak to the right people, I don't know if Debenhams would still be around today. It is in spirit in a way if we talk about what happened next, but that probably would have to shrink their entire assets, sell stores that were underperforming, make the right decision on stores that were performing or could perform in the right locations, and obviously invest in the customer experience. We obviously didn't talk much about Arcadia, but Arcadia was probably which led to their demise. When they went bust, Debenhams followed behind them, and the strategy was to get Arcadia Group into the stores, get some attractive high street brands to attract more customers in. But unfortunately, that big attraction.
But high street brands come and go all the time, don't they? It's. I would say getting Arcadia in was one of the last throws of the dice, because you're really working on the basis that these people you're coming in, who at the moment are quite good, are they going to still keep good after they've bought? Because Arcadia was a consolidator, weren't they, in buying other brands that had done well. But anyway, I suppose at the final point, though, it's just sad how many. I can't remember how many people lost their jobs, but it was a good number.
12,000 lost their jobs. I would say one of the rare good things that happened as a result was that I know that their pension was moved to a super fund. Don't quote me on the name of the fund, but I know in regards to the 10,000 that they've got pension entitlements, they are now moved from a higher earning pension.
I suppose that, I mean, that's one good positive. I've talked about the insolvency being a live subject. You're far too young to remember the Maxwell insolvencies, but there they used all the pension money to fund the business, and then when it went bust, there was no money in the pension fund for the pensioners. So, at least with Debenhams, that's a positive step forward.
Yeah, no, definitely, and obviously Debenhams, like I said, is still has a presence in its own way because it was obviously bought as in the website DIP by Boohoo. So, and yeah, it still is around in spirit, but obviously under a different name, which is trading really well, and yeah.
Up to the next one.
Yeah, on to the next one.
Thanks.